Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my purple hair because yes, I did dye my hair purple. My headband is way too far back. So I am setting a TBR for April. I didn't do one for March. I read a lot of books in March, but I was reading a lot of graphic novels, a lot of manga, a lot of shorter books. My reading was a little bit all over the place. I love reading those things, but for this month, there's a few videos I want to film and a little bit more structure that I want to put into my life. I only have 8 books on this TBR, but full disclaimer, I am going to be reading a lot more books. Outside of that, I have a few TBR knockout videos because one of my goals was to read more off of my own shelves, and as you can see, it's as full as it ever was. Without further ado, let me tell you about the books that I'm gonna be reading next month. After like 5 or 6 months, besties, I am finally doing my fairyloot reading vlog. I think that I overwhelmed myself with the idea of reading a bunch of fairyloot books, and instead what I'm gonna do is split it into parts. So the first 3 fairyloot books that I'm gonna be reading is number 1, This Vicious Grace by Emily Tide. This is the story of Signa, who is a girl who has like a poisonous touch, I think. Not really, like her power overwhelms people. So in this world, women get paired off with men who can like balance their power, and then the men use that power. Signa, at the beginning of this book, has been married 3 times. She's at her 3rd husband's funeral because each time she touches her husband, he dies. Her power is too great for any man who has tried to marry her. The little island that they live on, Signa's royalty, is about to be invaded by demons, and this priest guy convinced all the people on the island that their solution is to kill Signa. Is her name Signa? Her name's not Signa, her name's Alessa. I was like, that doesn't sound right. Alessa. So they convince everyone that the solution is to kill Alessa. And Alessa obviously is not down for that. She needs to hire a bodyguard. She hires this guy named Dante. Of course, Alessa has great powers. There's a demon invasion. I'm assuming she's gonna be the hero of this story. I did try a chapter for fairyloot a few months ago. I'll leave that linked in the video in case you wanna watch it. It's probably over here, to be honest. I am very excited to read this book. It is super chunky, which is why I'm only keeping the TBR to like 8 books, because a lot of these fairyloot books are big. I will also be reading Belladonna by Adeline Grace. Belladonna follows the story of Signa. That's who Signa is. So Signa is a girl who cannot die. When she was a baby, her mother hosted a party and everyone at the party was poisoned. Signa should have been poisoned as well because her mother was poisoned and she was breastfeeding Signa. Death came to collect Signa's soul, but he couldn't. And ever since then, Signa has died in a variety of ways, but she has never actually died. She just pops back up. So she's gone through a lot of family members. She's with very, very distant relatives at this point. We have the father who is throwing parties to grieve the loss of his wife. He's just like trying to distract himself. We have the son who's trying to save their family's reputation. We have a sister, I think, who's doing something. But here is Signa with them. And then the mother's ghost of this family comes back and says, I was poisoned. Signa comes to realize that this family is in danger, and she enlists the help of a stable boy to help her solve the mystery of what's going on and help her save this family. But she needs to have an alliance with Death in order to successfully complete this mission. Now, she and Death have a thing going on, right? He's never been able to kill her. She, is resentful about that. I believe this is a romance between her and Death, and honestly, I'm going to tell you, I'm so scared to read this. My expectations are not high. 1, because I know that Meg read this and she didn't really like this, but 2, because come on.
Between Death and the stable boy?
That's the love triangle you want to tell me that it is? I'm just like, that's not competition. That's not competition. You think I'm going to choose a stable boy over Death? I'm not. So we'll see how I feel about this. And the final fairyloot book that I'll be reading in that video is Daughter of the Moon Goddess, which is arguably the most beautiful fairyloot edition that I own. She's stunning. In this book, we're following Xingyin or Xingyin. I apologize. I've heard both pronunciations and I'm not sure which one is correct, but I do have the audiobook on script for this, so I will work on the pronunciation. So Xingyin is a young girl. She is the daughter of the moon goddess. They live on the moon in a palace, and unbeknownst to her, her mother has been keeping her a secret from the gods, because the gods and her mother, they have tension. They do not like each other. The gods are very much against her mother, the moon goddess. So one day, like, the council comes to their house on the moon and Xingyin has to hide. So while she's hiding, her mother actually gets arrested and taken to the celestial kingdom, and Xingyin is forced to flee and run away. She is grieving, she is feeling lost, and she decides that she's going to go to the celestial city, the celestial kingdom, to try to save her mother. She goes, she takes on a false identity, and she starts training behind the emperor's son. She's doing things like archery, she's encountering enemies. It's very fantastical is what I'm trying to say, all on the quest to save her mother. I'm hoping that I love this because the sequel to this book, which I'll pop here, is also freaking stunning. This book is beautiful. I've read the first chapter of this book and I did really enjoy it, so I am very excited to get to this in my fairyloot video. And I just realized it's blurbed by Shannon Chakraborty. What a coincidence. I'll be reading The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarif by S.A. Chakraborty. This is a book club pick for Riley's Patreon, and I'm very excited to participate in it. It was for the month of March, technically, but the live show isn't until mid-April. It's fine. In The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarif, which I'll be listening to on Scribd, we are following Amina. Amina is a pirate. She is the most notorious pirate in her area. So she's retiring. She's like, you know what? I've survived a lot of things. I've had husbands. I've slayed demons. I had kids. Like, I'm all good. I'm ready to stop living the pirate life. Let me just be me and my family. Until one day, a friend offers her an adventure that she cannot turn down. She's like, okay, cool. I'm gonna take this deal because it's one last adventure. And the deal is, this friend's daughter has been kidnapped, and she's offering Amina a huge amount of money to go and save her daughter. Amina agrees. She and her crew go out to do that, but as they're doing that, they realize there is a lot more to the story and things that they have not been told. The audiobook for this is already sounding like it's gonna be pretty good, so I'm very hopeful that I'm going to enjoy this book. So I'll be listening to If I Can Give You That by Michael Gray Bulla. In this book, we are following Gael. Now, Gael is a young trans boy living in a very conservative town in Tennessee. He is dealing with a lot. His mother is struggling with depression pretty severely, and he is trying to support his mother through that. His father is not in the picture at all. And of course, he's dealing with being a trans boy in a very conservative small town in Tennessee. One day, his friends really want him to go to this meeting, this group called Plus, which is a support group for queer youth in their area. He goes, not expecting much, but he does find a support system while he's there, and eventually he makes more friends and he meets this boy called Declan, and he and Declan forge a friendship, and that friendship and relationship eventually deepens. This is a coming of age YA book. The audiobook is really short and already pretty good, so I will be very excited to see where this book goes, and I'm expecting my heart to be broken because the summary says when tragedy strikes. I can already feel that I'm gonna cry. So this is the book I'll be reading. Then I'll be reading one of my most anticipated books that I have not gotten to, and that is Mistakes Were Made by Meryl Wisner, who also wrote one of my favorite sapphic books. I did a whole video on that, which I'll leave linked somewhere here, probably here. Mistakes Were Made is a story of this girl called Casey. Now, Casey is a college senior. She is about to graduate, and it is family weekend in her university. So the town is very overrun by families. She's trying to escape it all. So she goes to an off-campus bar to have a few drinks and just get away from all of the chaos. While she is there, she meets this older woman. They have immediate chemistry, and they have a very steamy one-night stand. She's content to leave that as is the woman, until the very next day, her best friend drags her to meet her mother. And guess who her mother is? That's right. It is the woman that Casey hooked up with. Say hello to Aaron. Now, that's very awkward for Casey and Aaron, because at the time, Aaron didn't know that Casey was graduating college. She didn't know that she was a student, but their chemistry is undeniable. And honestly, I've seen so many romances with like boyfriend's dad or best friend's dad. I'm like, I see that and I raise you, best friend's mom. Let's see how I feel about it. I'm very excited and I'm very hopeful because I love something to talk about so much. A book I should have read last month, but I did not, and I missed the live show for the book club, is Daughter of No World by Carissa Broadbent. Now, I did attend the live show for this, so like I left when there were spoilers, but so many people loved it. It seemed to be like a 4 or 5 star across the board. So I decided I'm definitely gonna pick it up. It is available on KU, but I'll probably be doing a tandem read of it, which means that I'll be reading it on KU, but also listening to the audiobook on Script. Apologies now because I do not know how to pronounce this name, but I will learn. Tasana? I'm saying Tasana. So Tasana is a slave in her world, and we're living in this high fantasy world where people have been enslaved. One day she gets freedom and she is trying to free everyone who is enslaved. So she goes to this other kingdom, essentially demanding training and support. They agree and she ends up being trained by this guy. I don't know what his name is. I know that there's some kind of chemistry and they do potentially fall in love. I know there's a monster. Of all of the books on this list, I know the least about it because I do just want to jump in, but I know that it's a high fantasy. I know that there's a monster. I know that there's romance, and I know that the first 50% of this book is very, very cozy, and the last 50% is a lot of action and battle. And the final book on my April TBR, again, I'll be reading a lot more. If you're not already subscribed, you should, because I'll be reading a lot of these books behind me in the month of April. But the final book that I am definitely planning to get to next month is She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chen.
That's what we've been waiting for!
I can't believe the time has finally come for me to read this book. It is available on Kindle Unlimited. It may no longer be. Check that out. I have it because I already had it checked out, but I will be reading it on KU. This is a super long book, but I'm so excited. I would say it's one of my most anticipated. In She Who Became the Sun, we are following Zhu. And Zhu is a young girl living in China, which is under a very harsh Mongol rule. People are starving. Things are very bleak. And when she's young, her brother gets a prophecy that he's going to have a great destiny. But lo and behold, he dies. He dies. And she decides that she is going to take on his identity. So she assumes the identity of her brother and goes to a monastery to train. You can see the cover. She's going to accomplish very great things. I think this book is brutal. I think that there is some, sapphic moments in here. We'll see. I just heard that. I just heard it. You'll see my reaction when I get to this book. This is a book I've been looking forward to for so long. It is another long book, which is why this TBR is a little shorter, because a lot of these books are like 400, 500 plus. Ow, my notebook just hit my foot. 400 to 500 plus pages, but that does bring us to the end of this video. Let me know if you've read any of these books or any books that you're planning to read in April. Subscribe if you are not already subscribed. I would love to have you stick around, especially because I have so many exciting videos coming up, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.